Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Reviewing Comics with me, your host, Alexander Turbin. Today we're going to be going over Marvel Superheroes number 11, the 80-page fall special, which is the introduction of Rogue into the Marvel Universe. But before we get into that, I'd like to show you some of my own work. This is Random Access. It's a full-size, full-color, 12-page comic book that I produce every month. And this is the latest edition. It's number 28. And you can get these at patreon.com/Alexander Turbin, or you can go to my website, alexanderturbin.com, and check it out. This latest one is the H.P. Lovecraft and Robert E. Howard, as if they're in their own they're characters in their own comic book, pretty much, and they're the heroes trying to save the day. Like I said, you can get these at alexanderturbin.com, or you can message me at alexturbin0441 at Yahoo, or alexturbin0441 at instagram.com. Is it instagram.com, or is it just Instagram? One other thing I'd like to mention is that I recently got this on eBay from Thrifty Comics, and he did a fantastic job. He or she did a fantastic job. It was a great price. It was really nicely packaged and came really quick. So they did a really fantastic job, and I highly recommend Thrifty Comics. You can go to their website, www.thriftycomics.com, as well as check them out on eBay. And they did a fantastic job. I might see if they have the last two issues of the books that I'm looking for, but we will get to that when we get to that. So this is the first appearance of Rogue, who is one of the X-Men, as you all know. And the X-Men are my favorite superhero team, comic book, whatever. And we're going to be looking at her first appearances. So there's a lot of hubbub and cajoling and weirdness going on with this, because her first appearance started out in Miss Marvel number 28, I believe, but it was canceled. So it was never actually released. And so they did all of the art. This is the Marvel Superheroes 80-page fall special. It has 3 or 4 different stories in it. We're only going to look at the Miss Marvel, because that is the first appearance of Rogue. And is it the first appearance of Rogue? That is my quandary, my conundrum. In my mind, I do think it is the first appearance of Rogue, because so many people believe that this Avengers Annual number 10 is the first appearance of Rogue, and I personally do not think it is, because here I have an 8.5, and we will be going into this, because what happened was, like I said, they had Mrs. Marvel, and they did her until issue 28, and then it was canceled. So they never released the final issues that Chris Claremont wrote. And that was the introduction of Rogue. So what they did was, I'm not sure if this annual was actually, I think this was actually supposed to be Miss Marvel 29. Or something like that. It's a two-parted. This story and this story obviously go together, because it's the famous Rogue kills Miss Marvel storyline. And there's a whole lot of story going on. But what's interesting for me is that the story was completely done, and except for a couple pages at the end. And so if a story is completely finished but not published until years later, what is the true first appearance of Rogue? Is this a true first appearance of Rogue, or is Avengers Annual number 10 the first appearance of Rogue? Because I really think, in my heart of hearts, that even though it's not published, it's still a thing. It's still been created, and it's still, for me, this is the first appearance of Rogue, even though it wasn't published until this. What I do remember, though, what Kurt Bruegel said, and that is that the process of creating the comic book is not the actual art. The actual comic book is the actual art, and I kind of agree with that. I mean, I do agree with that. I very much agree with that. But at the same time, is a finished comic book, created comic book, is the finished product, the having been printed, the printing process, having the cover, having all of the interior pages, having all of the edits and all of the layouts and everything all completed. Is that the finished product, or is the before that it's actually printed? Is that the comic book? So I don't know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think, because I'm really on the fence, because when I create a comic book, when I have all of the pages all done and everything, and if it's not yet printed, it's still a thing. It's still the artwork. It's still the creation. So I'm not sure, but we will definitely get into it more, I think, because that is a big topic in of itself. So what we have though is we have Avengers, where we have Marvel Superheroes, which was Miss Marvel number 28, that was never published. There are a couple of extra pages at the end because it wasn't completed. The story wasn't completed, and it's very interesting because it is such a shocking and jarring continuation from the last pages to the final 4 pages. I think it's 4 pages that are actually continued. 5, maybe it's 5, maybe no, yeah, maybe it's 6 pages. It actually might be 6 pages. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7. I think it's 7 pages that were reimagined or whatever, or continued. So Chris Claremont did all of these pages. Like, there's probably 15 pages. No, there's more than that. There's maybe 18 pages that Chris Claremont wrote. He did the script. They did the pencils. They did all of the pencils. I'm not sure if it was colored. I don't think it was actually colored until then, because this came out in, I should backtrack a little bit. The Avengers Annual came out in 1981, I believe, 80 something, 83. And then this was reprinted in 1992. So you have a decade's worth of time lapse between that coming out, Avengers Annual 10, and this coming out. But in my heart of hearts, I think this is the very first appearance of Rogue, because it was created then. If this was, created later, if Chris Claremont had made this story later and then was like, I'm going to tie it into the previous Avengers Annual 10, then I would agree, or I would say that the Avengers Annual 10 was the first appearance. But this was all done. This was all written. This was all drawn out, even if it was just the script and the art hadn't been done. But the art actually had been done back in the 80s, and then this was printed in 92. So if it's all done, for me, first appearance. So we're going to go through all of the first appearances, all of the appearances of Rogue up until she joins the X-Men in, I believe, 171 or 172, something like that. She was in this, which is, kind of a weird Lost in Eternity kind of thing. And then she was in the Avengers Annual 10, like I've shown you before. And then she was next in ROM number, I can't remember what it is, 32. She's in an issue of ROM, which I have, and I'm going to be going over too. Like I said, I'm going to be going over all of them, which is supposedly the second appearance of Rogue, but it's tied with X-Men 158, which is also the second appearance of Rogue, and where she's actually fighting the X-Men. And then the third, fourth, and fifth appearance is Dazzler 22, 23, and 24, which I have 22. I don't have 23 and 24, but I'll be going through some of the places. Maybe I'll be able to find them at Thrifty Comics, hopefully. But we'll see when we get to it. This will be a few weeks going into the first appearances of Rogue and her transformation as a character. Maybe I will even delve into her transformation as a character through the X-Men books. Let me know what you think. Would you like to see more of that, or do you just want to see the introduction of her as a character? So we're going to look at this comic book, and then we're going to go to the next ones next week or whatever, and we'll go from there. And before we get into that, don't forget to look in on this week's artist poll. We have Mark Silvestri and Stephen Platt as two fantastic artists, and go to our poll on our YouTube channel, and I'll put that in the description, a link, so you can go vote, because they are both fantastic artists. So far, Mark Silvestri is kind of winning by a landslide, but if you guys like Stephen Platt, then you'll want to join in the fray and check him out. Also, I would really love comments as to why you choose one artist over the other. But let's get into the story. I know it's been 10 minutes since I first cracked open this and before I started to get into it. And Joe gave me hell for doing that, just kind of mouthing off or whatever, and spouting whatever I've got to say before we actually get into the review of the comic book. But comics, I've got a lot to say, and I'm going to have to backtrack all the time, as you guys know, seeing these reviews and deep dives and stuff. But it's not just looking at the comic books. It's not looking at the artists. It's not looking at the writers. It's looking at comic books and life in general, because it really, the way things are going for comic books, it could be a dying art form. Maybe not completely. There's always going to be artists telling narrative stories, but in this kind of art form, this kind of Marvel Comics kind of thing, it could be a dying art form with all of the things that are going on recently. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about that too. So let's start off this. So Miss Marvel, she's an Avenger, and she there's a big convoluted story. I'm going to have to reread Avengers Annual 10, because there's a lot of stuff that I didn't really completely understand. And if you haven't read Avengers 198, 199, and 2, I don't know if it's 200, but I think it's 197, 198, 199. I might have to get those, because that's the backstory for Miss Marvel, which I don't know how much I want to get into the Miss Marvel storyline. But this is basically a Miss Marvel story, and then it introduces Rogue, and really she's just a bit character in kind of all of these. When I did the Lady Deathstrike, she was a little bit more of a main character, because she was kind of side by side with Daredevil, and she was a hero at the time. But one of her friends has died, and she's gotten Tony Stark, aka Iron Man, to come to the crime scene, and he's going to use this manipulation imaging thing to show, using light particles, who's been in the room and who could have killed him and stuff like that. And they use it. It works perfectly. It reminds me kind of Wild Wild West, when they put the thing in the guy's eyeball and stuff like that. But they do get it to work, and but Tony takes some tweaking and stuff, because it shows just everybody who's been in there, including them and everybody else. So then he does get it to work, and they show the image, and it's like a holographic video of this guy who is his name is I can't remember, Michael Barnett. He is a friend of hers, and he was killed, and this is showing it in a holographic image. And at first, it shows Miss Marvel being the one to kill him, because she's in the thing. But Carol's like, that's not me. I didn't do that. I never did that. So Miss Marvel, or Carol Danvers, is pounding the living crap out of Michael Barnett. And Carol's like very upset about that, distraught. And then finally we see that it is not Miss Marvel at all, because she's transforming into Mystique. And this is like the second or third appearance of Mystique. I don't have the first appearance of her, which is, I believe, Miss Marvel 17 or something like that. I kind of wouldn't mind reading them, because I don't know how much of the book Chris Claremont wrote, but his writing is so amazing. It's so great, and it's such a weird thing, because like I said, the last 10 to 11 to 12 pages of this book are not written by him, and to see the contrast and the connections and everything, the differences between the writing style of Chris Claremont and the other writer, is amazing. Let me go back to it's Miss Marvel: Cry Vengeance, and is written by Chris Claremont and Simon Furman. Furman does the last 10 pages or so. Mike Rosberg does the pages 43 through 69, and Mike Gustovich does 70 through 79. So there's 9 pages of new material that was never created back in the late 70s, early 80s, or whatever it was. So we see Mystique. She did it. We all can see it, and she's looking through these files, and they're wondering why everything is going on. And Miss Marvel, Carol Danvers, she's just like furious, and she wants to find out who killed Michael Burnett. And Tony offers his assistance in any way he can, but she, just like almost every X-Men solo adventure, is something that they have to do that by themselves. They can't use their teammates' help, which is, the craziest thing. It's usually Wolverine. He's usually like, I gotta handle this myself, bub. So she goes to the funeral of Michael Barnett, and she's just trying to figure out in her head how this could have happened and what's going on. And she has it references her sixth sense a few times, and she has some sort of trance and goes into her sixth sense, and it puts her into like almost a dreamlike state, and she falls into the casket or the she falls into the grave site, and she has like this dreaming thing, but it was part of her sixth sense, and she finally wakes up, and they're pulling her out of the grave site and stuff. She goes away from the graveyard and from the funeral and stuff, and she just kind of freaks out and is bound and determined to find out who killed Michael Barnett and why. Because apparently they used to be lovers and all of this stuff. She figures out that he has some sort of I'm gonna have to read this. Pretty scary bits this time too. This trance and the one before last issue. Both contain strong death images. The warning seems plain. I don't care. Whoever you are that Michael, to get to me, you're going to pay no matter what it costs. That night in a cargo hangar at John F. Kennedy International Airport. So I don't know why she figures out. The woman we saw in the image tracer is a complete unknown. There's no record of her in the Avengers databank or in any affiliated computer system. But tracing the number she called was child's play, using a reverse directory with the listings by number instead of alphabetical by name. So she calls. She figures out the phone call that Mystique had called and where it was, and it ends up being a hangar at JFK. She busts in, Miss Marvel busts in, and she finds these crates, and she breaks into the crates, and there's these weapons. So obviously it's a bad guy. She's chasing these bad guys, and then I'm not entirely sure what happens. She has the sixth sense again. She's having these visions of things that either could happen or gonna happen or something like that. It's weird. And she has these visions where these people are attacking her. And I think that this is supposed to be, Chris Claremont always does this in all of his comics. He puts these threads together of plot lines that are going to happen, years down in line, but he puts them in, he'll either put them in an epilogue or a prologue or something like that, or a cutaway scene, but he'll also put them in as not as a flashback or it'll be like a something. He'll show something that will be a representation of something that is going to happen in the future, which is a great thing to do. Foreshadowing. It's great foreshadowing, but he does it in a symbolic way, which is one of the fantastic ways to do it. And I love that about all of his X-Men comics. He does that. He's always done that, and it's really fun to read because you're a little bit thrown off by this almost astral type of symbolic imagery that she's having in her head of these people attacking her and stuff, her seeing herself as a skull, her falling into the grave site, and like the earth is crashing onto her. So when you're spoilers, when she sees this part, it's her sixth sense, but it's also being able to tell the future, because she's later on she's attacked by avalanche. Spoilers, and that is where that is referencing it. So it's got great foreshadowing, and she's got flames here, which is pyro. So it's some great foreshadowing and a great way to create a comic book, and it's fantastic way to do it. So Claremont knew what he was doing. He knew what storyline he was portraying, what he wanted to do all along. What I want to know is, did he mean to turn Rogue from this villain bad guy into one of the X-Men? And I would say that yes, he did. From the very beginning, he wanted Rogue to be one of the X-Men, and he wanted her to go through her trials and tribulations and change from being a villain to being a hero, which he did that with so many of the characters. He did that with Wolverine. He did that with Juggernaut. He did that with Magneto. He did that with so many characters. Phoenix, Dark Phoenix. Making them have these existential crises, and then making them really challenging their belief systems in either a good way or a bad way or whatever. I mean, he made Colossus bad, so he's not afraid to turn good guys into bad guys either. And that's really an interesting way to completely do it. So she goes to this airport hangar, and she's interrupting, or she finds out that there's going to be a weapons sale, and it's the Hellfire Club, and they're going to be selling their weapons to who knows. But then she's found out. She makes like some sort of noise or whatever, and Donald Pierce attacks her, who we know is one of the Reavers. He's one of the Reavers. He's the creator of the Reavers, and he's a big part of the Hellfire Club and all that cool stuff. There's another one of them. I can't remember who it is, what their name is. Leland, no. What's his name? I can't remember what his name is. Anyway, he controls the density of people, and that's what he did to Carol Danvers, because she would have whipped them. You know, she's super strong, super fast, impervious to harm, and all of this stuff, and she would have destroyed them. But one of them, please somebody remind me of who that is. And he creates the higher density on her, and she falls through the hangar and goes into the basement. I guess that's where she goes, and into the basement, and I guess into the sewers or something like that. Or not? No, not yet. She just goes down one level when Pierce punches her down there using his bionic arms, and then later on, she's fighting Pierce, and then he goes back into I can't remember his name, but anyway. He forces her down, and she smashes down into the sewers, and she gets away. They're like, we got to get out of here. We're going to be found by the cops. So the Hellfire Club leaves or whatever. And then I guess she finds out who was supposed to be sold the weapons to, or no, he was going to sell the weapons to the Hellfire Club. But then later you find out that he was actually going to double sell the weapons to the Hellfire Club and to the Mystique and her Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, I guess. Here's a really cool advertisement with some really nice artwork. I don't know who that is, but that's really awesome. And then so she's talking to this guy who is the weapons dealer. She realizes that if she flirts with him, being all, womanly and stuff, she can get some kind of information out of him. He's flying to somewhere. He's flying to Hong Kong. I think he's flying to Hong Kong. And so she makes it so that she can sit with him and get some information from him. And they have this little... she's just, playing the part, trying to woo him and use her sexual innuendos and stuff to get some information from him. It then goes to Hong Kong, which is where they're headed, and cutscene to Destiny and Mystique and Rogue, and they're just kind of talking about Destiny keeps telling Mystique that Miss Marvel and Rogue have an intertwined destiny, and in that Rogue is going to be hurt by Miss Marvel, and she doesn't. She keeps saying she's not saying this is exactly what's going to happen, but she sees some sort of weird stuff going on in the future between Rogue and Miss Marvel. Mystique is hell bent on stopping that from happening because she does love Rogue, and that is one of the very complicated parts of her relationship with Rogue and the X-Men and all of the Hellfire Club, because she does have all of these strong feelings. She's really kind of portrayed differently in the movies. I mean, obviously she's portrayed differently in the movies. She's more like a hero than a villain. And in the comics, she definitely is a villain because she has all of these intertwining, interconnected feelings for Rogue and the X-Men and all of these stuff. But she also has this self-centered, backstabbing, conniving part of her personality. So she's really kind of a conflicted character, which is really very interesting. One of the great things about the X-Men is their multi-dimensionality of their characters. They're not just one thing. They're not just a bad guy. They're not just a good guy. They're they have an ebb and flow of their character. They're going to go, where their actions take them. They're going to go where their loved ones are. They're going to go where their feelings are. They're just a lot of weird different things going on with all of these characters, which is one of the very best things about the X-Men and Chris Claremont's writing in general, because he's got such a distinct writing style, and it's very wordy, but it's all wordy with a purpose and with a message and part of the plot and part of the whole feeling of the comic book and creation of the comic book. It's not just throwing action scenes down one after another. It's not just event. It's interconnecting relationships, it's interconnecting personalities, and that is really the strongest part of the X-Men. Always has been, or it's been the strongest part of Chris Claremont's X-Men, and it always has been with that. So again, we have another Sixth Sense kind of thing where Miss Marvel has this vision of her actually becoming one of the Hellfire Club. I don't know if Claremont actually thought that maybe she should become the Black Queen. Maybe this was before Selene, so maybe she could have taken over the part of Selene as the Black Queen, or maybe she was supposed to be Tessa's take over where Tessa is, who was the right-hand man of Shaw. And so I don't know if that was maybe a thread or something that could have happened if he hadn't decided to go a different way with Miss Marvel, or maybe Marvel in general wanted Miss Marvel and Carol Danvers to go in a different direction. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, so she's wooing the guy, the weapons guy, and they're almost boyfriend girlfriend now, and she actually kind of likes him a little bit, and she goes to the hotel with him, and she stays there while he is off doing his business, and she's gonna follow him around, or that's what she had planned to do, to follow him around and figure out what he was doing. And but she's in the hotel room, and she gets attacked by the Brotherhood, and she gets thrown out of the window and saves everybody from the falling debris, as all of the X-Men usually do, or really all superheroes do. She's attacked by Pyro and Avalanche, who are really Mystique's henchmen, and this is where the style changes dramatically from 80s style to 90s style, and I really wish they had tried a little bit harder to keep the theme and keep the style and keep the whole feel of the comic book the same. It would have been much better. I understand that the writing, a writer is who they are. They can't really emulate another writer. They can try a little bit, but then it seems off. But this artist is very imagey. Image is out by now, and Liefeld and McFarlane are all the rage. So this artist is definitely trying to be an Image artist, and it really conflicts with the previous pages of art, and it really is too bad that they didn't try to have a little bit more cohesion in that respect. But it's nice to have this story told. you don't actually see Rogue. One of the things that I was thinking was, if you didn't actually see Rogue until the new pages, maybe the new pages were, maybe then I could reserve myself to being like, Avengers Annual 10 is actually the first appearance of Rogue, and this isn't. But she's actually a few pages in. She's here, just huddled on her bed, scared. So that is actually the first image of Rogue in a comic book, and this is the second one. And then you don't see it later until the reprise or reimagining with the new artist of who Rogue is and stuff like that. So Avalanche and Pyro, they're fighting Miss Marvel, and she finally smashes them because she's way more powerful character than either one of them are. She gets into her regular civilian gear, which I really think that they wanted to accomplish a couple things. I think they wanted to completely and concisely conclude the storyline that Chris Claremont was doing in the original Miss Marvel 28, 29, whatever it was. But I think they wanted to do it in a way that references his work and references Rogue and her first appearance and all of that. And they wanted to do it in a kind of a quick, concise way. She realizes then that because it's outside. As always, Tessie, your information was spot on. Kohilo was indeed playing a double game. The armaments meant for the Hellfire Club's Hong Kong division were being sold again, only this time to the Brotherhood. So Shaw figures out what's going on, or Tessa does rather, and she relays it to Shaw. The White King, is he the White King? No, he's the Black King. So he figures it out. And they're just like going to go on their merry way. The Hellfire Club, they're not going to do anymore. Mystique, he is dead. The Kaho guy, I can't remember his name. What's his name? Coelho, Coelho. He was killed by the Brotherhood, and excuse me. Mystique's freaking out because the arms are gone, the money's gone, everything's gone. Miss Marvel kind of ruined things, kind of by accident, really. She didn't do it on purpose. She just happened to stumble upon what was going on and just fought with the Hellfire Club, fought with the Brotherhood and stuff like that. So Mystique has this more dialogue with Destiny and talking about how their paths are intertwined, Mystique's and Miss Marvel, and how Miss Marvel is going to kill Rogue, or she's going to end Rogue's life or something like that. And Mystique is just furious. She's just got this hatred for Miss Marvel. And that's when Rogue overhears this, and she decides to take matters into her own hands. And but Mystique, she was going to do it anyway because she says Carol Danvers dies tonight. Destiny told Mystique that she was in San Francisco at her apartment where she lives, and Rogue kind of blindsides her. Miss Marvel has groceries in her arms. She's fumbling around with her keys trying to get into her apartment when Rogue smashes through a door and knocks Miss Marvel back. I'm not entirely sure some of this. What happens in the, I'm going to spoil a little bit. There's a reference to Rogue attacking Captain America here, where it says in the book that it's a common mugging, but I think it's supposed to be Rogue stealing Captain America's because he gets knocked out. She steals his super strength and his, which I don't know why that would happen, because even though he has the serum in him, isn't his superpower that he's just a highly evolved human being? So I'm not entirely sure why she would steal his powers. But anyway, she steals his combat experience and everything like that. So she could take Miss Marvel. So I'm gonna believe that. I think that's within the realm of believability. So they're just fighting. This fight scene is way too short, way too simple, not nearly good enough at all. It's only 3 pages, and this should have been like 7, 8, 9 pages where they fight each other on the bridge, and they just smash into each other, and they're just kind of hammering on each other. She finally turns back into Miss Marvel, or her gets into her costume or whatever, and she throws Rogue around. And at first she thinks that she's got Rogue dead to rights, and she actually says so. But then Rogue's like, "No, you don't have me anywhere. All I have to do is touch my skin to you," and that's the end. I win because you get knocked out. And she throws Carol Danvers off of the Golden Gate Bridge, and later on we'll see what happens there, which actually Spider-Woman saves her, but we'll see that in the next episode where we go over Avengers number 10. So it is very convoluted, very complex storyline going on here, and it's very much a build-up, like all of Claremont stuff. This last page is just a recap, basically, of what happened in Avengers 11, in Avengers Annual 10, and what happens to Rogue in the coming months and coming years, becoming one of the X-Men and everything like that. So they just wanted to have like a recap. So I would probably, I'm going to discount this whole last section where Rogue actually fights Miss Marvel, because I don't think that that's really, yes, that is continuity. Yes, Marvel can do whatever they want, but it doesn't really make a whole lot of, it doesn't jive as well as if Claremont had written it and they had the original artist-writer. I think that would have been a lot better, a lot different. And so I'm torn. I don't think this part is the first appearance of Rogue. I think the previous parts are the first appearance of Rogue. For me, anyway. I'm not saying that collector-wise or anything like that. Collector-wise, Avengers Annual 10 is the first appearance of Rogue, and there's no disputing or doubting that. But in my mind, in my heart, I know that this is actually the first appearance of Rogue. So really, that's it until Avengers Annual 10, and where we see the aftermath of Rogue killing Miss Marvel, because in the X-Men we always were told that she killed Miss Marvel, and she used her powers too much, and she stole her soul, stole her whole being, and that's why she had to go to Professor Xavier for help and all of that stuff. And so that, to be completely honest, that little fight scene was a little bit of a letdown. And like I said, I just got this because I had never really known before that there was a fight scene between Rogue and Miss Marvel. I always just kind of thought there were hints of it. And it's nice to see it in print. It's nice to see like not so much a conclusion, but a beginning of the conclusion, to have some kind of closure in the fact that something happened before Avengers Annual 10. So I know there's a lot to get through. I know there's a lot to piece together in the whole Rogue way she came to be and everything like that. But this is the very beginning part of the stories. And thanks for watching. And if you're new to the channel, usually I review and do deep dives into old 80s, 90s, 70s, 80s, 90s indie comics, black and white, stuff like that. But really, I like to just go over all of the stuff that really interests me, and I love the X-Men and Rogue and stuff like that. So if you're into that kind of stuff, please consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell and all that cool stuff. And but more than that, I really love the comments from everybody. I love hearing comments, especially I want to know what you guys think of, is this the first appearance of Rogue, or is Avengers Annual 10 the actual first appearance of Rogue? I'd love to hear your comments on that. So it's Friday, and hopefully we'll do a live stream with Joe on either tomorrow or Sunday. And then we'll see you back here on Monday for another indie comic or some sort of comic book review. And thanks for watching. And again, throw me down a comment. I really love it. And until I see you next time, have a great weekend and keep on creating.